Welcome to Wrestling with Heart, a podcast looking at pro wrestlers giving back to their community. Join me, Stanley Carr, as I interview wrestling's hottest names who use their platforms as entertainers to raise awareness and do community service. Before you became a wrestler, you were a teacher. Tell me about that.
I was just a school teacher and a football coach. My brother was a lifer, football coach, basketball coach, and a teacher. So I didn't, that was hell. I didn't know what to do. What do? You go to college and become a teacher and coach a little bit until you start wrestling.
Did you?
I remember then 1 week I was working for Dick the Bruiser. I worked Dick the Bruiser in Danville, Illinois on Friday night. I drove all night and did Kansas City TV. I did St. Joe TV that night. Then I drove to St. Louis the next day and did 2 tapes at the Chase, worked against Flair and Dick Murdoch. And the next day I went back to my principal and I said, Fish Lips, I said, I'm retiring from school teaching. I said, take my sick days, my personal days. After that, just dot me because my ass ain't going to be around here.
I gotta say though, like when you were teaching, I bet it was somewhat, exhausting and stressful because you had to put up with a lot of kids.
Oh my God! No matter what year it is. Oh, I used to hurt them without showing them, putting marks on them. I already knew how to do that. Okay.
What grades did you teach?
Oh, I taught 7th and 8th, and I coached at the high school.
Wow, middle school.
I remember I was wrestling at a show in Indianapolis for Dick the Bruiser. And one of the kids I had in 7th grade, he goes, Mr. Shire, you're wrestling. I said, yeah, shut up.
That's like the worst kept secret, right?
Yeah. Uh-huh. Then all of a sudden I was the god at school, right?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So I'm guessing, based on our conversation so far, did you prefer being a heel?
Oh, yes. Babyface is boring. It's nothing creativity. You learn to sell and to do your basics, have a little fire. Healing's where it's at. I remember one night we used to run Johnson City, Tennessee every Tuesday night. I had all the heels in the car. It was me, Gary Lopez, Ricky Starr, and somebody else, and we showed up and something happened to the car. We're 90 minutes late for the show. Ronnie Garvin had been in the ring for 90 minutes with this big guy that does TV, about a 300-pound guy named Tony Peters.
Oh, man.
The ring had broken down. The place was standing. We got there. We ran in the back door with our bags, our suitcases. We tried to hit Garvin. He beat the shit out of all of us. We all ran back to the dressing room, and that was the end of the show. You could not top that, right?
No, not at all.
We knew it. See, we knew improv. We knew improv.
Yeah.
And that's the shit you can't never forget. It's the times of your life, the adrenaline, the stories you got, the memories you had. God. Oh. And this is the nicest I've ever been on the phone talking because you know how I usually talk.
Oh yeah.
If you've ever watched my podcast on Wrestling with Rip Rogers on YouTube, yeah, I'm pretty.
You can get into it.
I got. Huh?
You can get into it. You wrestled all over the world. You also got to work for WCW. Any memories there?
Well, I used to run towns for Ole Anderson. So I had a beard for years, and I shaved my beard off because Ole wanted me to shave it off because I was a promoter all of a sudden. So all of a sudden, I'd have like 5 days of a month, and I'd line up like 5 shows in a row. So I might all the guys you saw on because you don't want to have guys under contract that are not wrestling. Right. You got to. You don't play in the NFL and not practice, do you?
No, of course
you got to have that's like every sport. You got to practice and play games. So when the COVID shit started and all of a sudden these wrestling companies running once a week or whatever, and AEW has got guys that have never even wrestled there and they're under contract. In any sport.
It must have been hard to be a professional wrestler and get signed in the middle of a worldwide pandemic. That's scary.
If you don't practice, you can't get. Can you imagine playing in the NBA? But oh yeah, we have 1 game a week, but we don't practice. No,
it's impossible.
It ain't happening. And in wrestling, you lose it very quickly, and your body gets in bump shape quickly. But then you take a week off. Oh, then you can hardly move. and it's horrible. But this is the job that we wanted to be in, and this is a job we love.
Right.
And because of pro wrestling, I started boxing when I was in my 40s.
Ooh.
But I had all the charisma. I couldn't fight a lick, but people didn't know that.
Was it easy to make the transition or hard from being a wrestler to a boxer?
Well, it's hard to believe. It's hard to go out there and when you're doing something you can be looking like I'm killing you and I'm not touching you, and that's the way wrestling's supposed to be. And then in boxing, I'll go out there and I'm throwing punches that ain't really hitting him.
You're just like.
Well, no, it's just no. I can miss you by an eighth of an inch. I mean, that's what's called being good.
Yeah. Were you able to get the training you needed to go into boxing?
I just did it.
You just did? Okay.
I was 40. I was 41 my first fight, I think.
Wow.
But I had like four of them. So what the hell, right? You only go through life one time. Anybody who was in the wrestling business was either part criminal, were missing a card, or just too lazy to have a real job and they wanted to sleep late or whatever. And all you got to do is basically shut up, do a little bit of training, half-ass eat right, and guys will help you. Because the guy you helped on the way up, he might get some power, and he's helping you later on in your years.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's all about giving back. And
right.
It's all about giving back and serving your community and making sure the world is a better place. And, you became the head trainer at OVW, Ohio Valley Wrestling, in Louisville, Kentucky. Former heavyweight champion, Southern Tag Team champion. Tell me about how you got involved with OVW.
Well, I used to work there because I was buddies with Danny Davis, and then me and Danny Davis became business partners. And then for 20-some years, I worked there. And then about 2 years ago, when COVID, I got tired of it. A lot of it is I'm very strict when I teach. I'm a yeller. I'm a screamer. I also can take guys off the street, and I've got 70-some people basically in WWE. That started in the beginners class. That's what I'm saying. You remember the Spirit Squad, like Mike Mondo and Johnny Jeter?
Dolph
remember
Ziggler?
Santino Marella? Like Serena, like got all these guys that come in.
We talked about one of them, Randy Orton.
No, Randy was on contract.
Okay.
Now, Randy was on contract, so I was training the contract guys, but I was training these other guys that started in our beginners class. Then they trained through me, and they ended up getting all these jobs with WWE as wrestlers, as like Pat Buck is in. He's a producer for AEW. He quit WWE, and then God. Rump Thump, he's a referee in AEW now. But I had guys, girl wrestlers, guy wrestlers, managers, you name it, have anything to do with wrestling. You can't go up to the big leagues where guys are going to pick on you. You got to be able to take it. It's like you're going to Vietnam and you're an 18-year-old pussy. And you're going to be in a foxhole and people will be trying to kill you. And I got to toughen you up no matter what to give you a chance to survive in this dog-eat-dog world of professional wrestling.
Yeah.
So that was why I did all that.
Well, yeah, you have to prepare people for what's to come, because if you don't, then you're going to get sucked in right away.
Right. And then they're just they can't compete. They're skull fucked. Excuse me. Everybody picks on them, manipulate them. They don't even know it. It's an evil world out there, baby, and only the tough ones survive.
Only the strong survive. Is that what?
That's it, baby.
So OVW, you've trained a lot of people. A lot of big names came out of OVW, and you said you worked with the contract guys too.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, look at how like guys like Orton, Cena, Lesnar, Batista, all of them.
Well, Batista's a movie star. Shelton Benjamin.
Yep.
A lot of guys, they would give guys, and they'd hang out for about a year or whatever. Then they get cut. They just release them. They didn't have the right attitude, or they just wasn't picking it up quick enough, or he was too much like somebody else, or you just didn't know, or this guy was one of somebody's favorites. You just didn't know about it.
Any,
And
yeah.
and you didn't know some of the guys like Mike Mondo. He's done more hour matches than anybody I've ever had. And then he would take. I go to seminars, and I'd have that's like uh, Damian Adams is in Wharton, New Jersey, and he's trained all the best girls, and all his girls get contracts, and uh, and I always do seminars for him. But I always say he's the world's greatest women's trainer. But just because you're a good wrestler, don't mean you're going to get a push.
I heard that you also got to train Pat McAfee
Oh
before his
yeah,
matches.
that's well, Pat. Pat lives about 7 minutes from me.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, and he had a ring in his like his barn. So I took a bunch of guys that I've been training at OVW, and we go over there and train Pat.
Hmm.
Pat was a natural. All he wanted to ever do was be a wrestler.
And he was.
Yeah, he'll still keep me in contact with me, and he'll pull one up over. I used to be on the Pat McAfee show there with him. I got my own podcast, which you watch that, and but Pat's got about probably 2 million followers or whatever. Pat's the human talking machine.
Oh,
he
yeah.
he could do a 20-minute promo talking about nothing, and it'd be the world's greatest promo. And every once in a while, or last year he called me. He says, "Hey, you know what a Cash App is?" I said, "No, what's Cash App?" He said, "Well, get one." I said, "Yeah, okay." I didn't know what one was. He calls me back. "Did you get a Cash App?" I said, "No." I said, "Get one." I said, I told you I don't know what the hell they are. I still think it's 1972. You know that. So then I got one. Then he would send me a bunch of money for no reason.
I'm old enough to remember when VHS tapes were the norm.
Yeah, all my tapes are on VHS tapes. You know what's about 4 or 5 years ago? I went to Cauliflower Alley Club.
Oh yeah.
For the wrestling thing.
Yeah.
When I went there, there was a flood. There was a storm. My basement flooded. My sump pump didn't work. Every tape I had, every picture I had since I was born, as regular Mark Shire or Rip Rogers wrestling stuff, scrapbooks, I lost everything.
Oh, that had to have been devastating.
No shit, Sherlock. All these programs from everywhere, all over the world, looking back, all your memories and shit, then it's all of a sudden it's gone.
I'm so sorry.
But you can't take it with you, so what the hell, right?
I did it. Something's got to be somewhere on the internet.
Yeah, but no, Pat's the most unique person I've ever met in my life.
I got to.
He's a good Joe.
For sure. I got to see him wrestle. I live in Nashville, so I got to see him wrestle Baron Corbin at SummerSlam last year. He really could. He could hold his own in there, no doubt about it.
In wrestling, I'd tell you, most of the heels are really the great guys. The baby faces are the assholes, and a lot of the guys you think are great aren't, and the ones you think aren't are. But until you get in there, you will never know. Some guys are just so good, and you go, "Well, this guy never wins a match on TV." Well, that's why he's there. He can make everybody look good. Sometimes you're too good that they make you be bad so that to pull somebody else up because they're not any good.
Well, it's interesting, you say that because, the WWF in the 80s was very babyface heavy. I mean, you had Hogan, you had Sergeant Slaughter, and all these different guys that were like, colorful, Macho Man at one point was a babyface.
But now think. They all came in as heels first, didn't they?
They did.
Oh, yeah. See, here's what you do. Now, here's what nobody ever thinks about. It's hard for a babyface to get, besides Ricky Steamboat.
Yeah.
Hard to get over as a babyface. It takes so long. So come in as a heel, kick ass. Now you're an animated character, and they hate you. So that when you turn good, they love you.
It's a science.
Yes,
It's a
and
science.
it still works. All they got to do is see. Years ago, you wouldn't hotshot all the time because then you would burn out. So you would. It's like ECW would hotshot. Too much of one thing leads to people. They never drew a house. They never drew a big rate. They never drew a rating. In every match, there's like too much violence. We're wrestling, me and you could wrestle clean for 15 minutes. All of a sudden, I hit you with a closed fist, and all of a sudden, you're knocked out. And they're bringing the stretcher out because I hit you with one punch. It's all how you know how to do it. It's psychology.
It is.
It's think of the old monster movies in black and white. You never saw Frankenstein really bite nobody's head off. There's never any violence. It's all the looking like it's violence.
Right.
The shadows, the music, the slow motion, the selling,
right.
the facial, the intensity. Yes. And wrestling's the same way.
It is.
But like I tell all the guys, I said, look, let everybody else do their stupid dives for no fucking reason. Be skinny fat nerds, and you go out there and give them a good, basic, solid thing. And when you hit whatever big move that is, you treat it like you're dead, and that's how you get over. Not doing 22 false finishes, and each one is 2.9, and then you make the stupid, oh my God, I can't believe he kicked out of that. Holy shit. This shit is so easy. But it takes years and years and years for that light bulb finally comes on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then once you learn it, you don't deviate because it works.
Is there anybody today that you feel has the potential to be an incredible heel if we're talking about bad guys?
As a bad guy, all the bad guys got to do is do what his mentor tells him, and he won't understand it. In a few years, he will. And the hardest thing in wrestling is slow down. Slow down. Look left. Look right. Something's going to happen. And change your booking around. I was a booker in Kansas City. I was a booker in Puerto Rico. When the ref bumps down, when the ref gets knocked down, sometimes he gets back up and continues the match. If the ref gets knocked down, sometimes he gets hurt. Somebody else comes in and finishes the match. When the ref gets knocked down, sometimes he gets knocked down. It looks like he's hurt. The guy comes in. He waves him off and said, no, I got this. And all of a sudden, it used to be there would be the ref would bump and everybody would turn around and look to the back. What we've done was we Pavlov dogged it where they know what everything is. So you change it.
Yeah.
I've never had a match where I've duplicated a match in my life. I look and I read the crowd. What do they want to see? What have they already seen? Oh, this was the finish in the first match. I know. Okay, these are the finish of the first 4 matches. I'm on 5th. I'll use them first, and I'll do them 4. I'll do 4 false finishes, and the ones that are false finish me, they're the ones that all won a match. Holy shit. And this ain't something that I thought up. This is something that some other old guy told me about 20 years ago.
Wow.
Anything old is new again to a new audience.
That's right. You got to cycle right through it.
That's right.
So outside of, you were a football coach and a teacher. You work at OVW. Tell me about some of the other stuff you've done that you've helped out with in your community.
Well, I used to run wrestling shows, and for for guys that were they needed special help, special needs kids. And we had 3 shows at the high school that all did 3 shows in a row, do over 1,000 people, which is a lot considering I was doing the work. And this guy that I do the podcast with, Vaughn Lilas, his dad was a principal there. Mm-hmm. So I'd be on the road. I'd come home for Christmas usually. And over the Christmas break, we'd have a show there.
It's very
and we had, but anyway, it's just fun. You know, I love wrestling. We ran probably 4 shows a week, and television shows. We had a OVW TV show. We had a DCW TV show, which was Derby City Wrestling TV, and then we had shows for the contract classes, and then we had shows for the guys that wasn't on contract too. So we was busy running towns, running shows. It was wrestling oriented every day. So, and I did that for 22 years there. And then I just said, I'm done. So I still do seminars. I still go to other guys' schools just to train. I still on the phone with everybody that I know, solving their fucking problems or telling me what they're getting into, how they should do this, how they should present a different angle or whatever, how they get frustrated with the wrestling business, how you're up and down as in life every day. It's the world's greatest business. And I've seen guys that I know killed them, didn't see them, but guys that have killed themselves, committed suicide because they looked at themselves as failures when it's not a real business.
Why do you feel so passionate about helping other people and helping out in your community?
Well, it's like everybody had to help me. When I was a fat little kid, here's a guy in Seymour who I looked up to, Dan Pollard, and he's jacked, lifting weights and everything, and he helped me. So here I am, a fat little kid. Now all of a sudden I'm guest posing at the Mr. Puerto Rico physique contest. I'm winning physique contests. And then I just became a training nut. I'm 69 years old. I went to the gym 3 hours today. You can't, you're still all hurt. Your joints are messed up. Your knees are shot. Your hips are shot. You can't hardly do anything, but you feel good. The endorphins start going and you feel better. I don't do drugs, drink alcohol or whatever, but no, I got to wrestle all over the world. God, met so many people, had so much fun, had so many good times. When you're not wrestling, you go into a little bit of depression. So I remember I had to train a couple guys from home because I've been on the road, but I couldn't have a conversation with anybody in town because I wasn't normal. you had to have a little bit of a criminal in you, and a little bit of go on the road and do whatever. You know what I mean?
I guess you could say it makes the world a little more interesting when you have good people and bad people.
Yes. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. So.
Hey, Rip, this has been incredible getting to talk to you about your life in the wrestling business. Where could people find more about you on social media?
Let me see, Hustler2754 on Twitter, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, Hustler2754. I got Instagram, but hell, I can't remember what it is. I got Facebook. I can't remember that stuff either. So,
and you got
that's. You can get your Hustler Rip Rogers t-shirts from ProWrestlingTees.com if you're in Seymour, or you can get my book from Amazon.com, Wrestling with Rip Rogers. I think that's what it is.
Yeah, and you've got a podcast.
And I got the podcast on. Was that Wrestling with Rip? I get confused. Whatever it is.
Wrestling with Rip Rogers.
Yeah, that's on YouTube. So I'm a whole lot more flamboyant and a lot more cuss words, but
colorful language, as we like to call it.
Yeah, colorful language. You can't be perfect. What the hell?
No.
So hey, I'm 69 years old. I've already done all my things you want to do? What do they call the things you want to do in life or
bucket
whatever?
List. Your bucket list.
Yeah, your bucket. I've done everything.
Yeah.
So
what the hell, right?
Just enjoy life.
So, yeah, if I croak, the last thing I did was your show. If I croak tonight, so you don't ever know. So
Life is not guaranteed.
Yeah, nothing's guaranteed.
Nothing is.
Nothing guaranteed. So if you got a passion, the thing about I'm talking about is passion. If you got a passion for baseball, if it's working on cars, if it's acting or whatever, go and give it all for that passion. Because if you make it, you'll be the happiest guy in the world. If you don't make it, at least you tried. You don't want to look back and say you're 50 and said, I wish I would have done this.
Right.
Yeah, and the thing about it is Father Time waits on nobody. I remember when I hit 30, I said, oh my God, I'm old. Then all of a sudden I hit 40 and I said, I'm built better at 40 than I was at 30. and then last month, and all of a sudden I'm 69. And you go, where in the hell did time go?
Right. Yeah.
So if you can have a good time and smile and laugh and treat every encounter with almost anybody you meet, it could be the last time you see them. You don't ever know. So enjoy life on this earth. There ain't no reason to be pissed off and mad. You come into the earth you come in with no money, and you're going to leave with no money no matter what. So have a good time and help each other. Don't be an asshole.
Oh, man. Hey, Rip, thanks again. This is Wrestling with Heart. I hope you found this podcast to be informative and entertaining. If you did, please hit the subscribe button and look out for the next edition.